legal system to eliminate and deal with disputes on a quick, efficient, and costly basis. The transactions that happen in the credit card industry, they use, in many cases, artificial intelligence to see if this is likely to be fraudulent. They will oftentimes turn down transactions before they take place. And after a dispute occurs, they've got a very complicated system. No lawyers involved. You're not even allowed in your own trial. But they have a system of solving things. So I could imagine a world looking like Visa and MasterCard or American Express. Whatever system you like, that's the one you can opt into. If a store wants to accept MasterCard, they can. And you can choose whatever types of relationships you want with your bank as long as everyone agrees. Okay, so the point I'd like to stress is that whenever there's a need, and when we're talking about eliminating chaos, there's a huge need. I'm going to make the point that whenever there's a need, there's a profit opportunity. People profit by solving problems. Credit cards are just one example. The profit system enables people all over the globe to cooperate. All right, so to conclude, that was a signal, right, Dan? All right. I will conclude with the following statements, and then we can open it up for questions. The idea that we can't have private solutions to these things is simply overlooking the fact that there's lots of private solutions already in existence. Private security is extremely common. Private courts are extremely common at both the local and the global levels. The idea that you can't have this, it's a public good, simply not true. The other thing I want to highlight is that private firms face very different incentives from government agencies. Private firms are only in business when who's happy? Customer. Right? You guys, the customer. The customer's unhappy, the private firm loses money, goes broke eventually. Government, in contrast, if you have a problem with your local police officer, you can fire that person? No, right? There's really nothing you can do. They've got tax-financed budgets, and your interests are often the last thing in their mind. Government is a monopoly. One of the main lessons from economics is when you have private voluntary choice, competitive choices, you can select anything you want. When you have to face one group that says, you're taking my product, whether you like it or not, you're much less likely to come out a winner. The main other thing we can talk about is that all of these relationships are purely voluntary. Under markets, when you have a relationship with Disneyland or your shopping mall or your credit card company, you choose which ones that you want, and in economic terms, you're only going to choose ones that you think are good for you. Right? They're ex ante beneficial to all parties involved. Anytime you choose a rule, you join a chess club, and you say, I want to have these rules in my chess club. You're doing this because you want to have those rules. If you didn't like those rules, then you can opt into a different chess club. When we have a monopoly over the entire society, we don't really have that relationship that is voluntary. I didn't select my local police officers. I didn't select the laws of my town or city, state, or nation. A lot of other people selected those laws. So it's completely different. All right, to conclude here, just because security is important does not mean it must be provided by government. My opinion, my conclusion, is that markets work so well in all areas where they've been implemented. Why not in security and the prevention and adjudication of disputes too? So if anybody is interested in this, there's a lot of great work, some amazing work that has been written on this topic. I want to mention this one brilliant person with great taste. Roderick Long describes the following book. He says, "This nearly 700-page book is quite simply the definitive collection on free market anarchism." And by free market anarchism, we're talking about the idea that we can have a free market without the state. He says, this here and now is it. And he's just a genius, this guy. Oh, what book is he talking about? He's talking about my book, Anarchy in the Law, edited by Edward Stringham. So I will open it up to questions. I've got plenty of time. I've got more things I could talk about, historical examples or anything else, but let's open it up. Yeah?
We discussed government as monopoly. What happens when the business becomes a monopoly and they're the only enforcers of their market?
I would distinguish between a coerced monopoly and a monopoly or a large market share that customers have chosen. When government gets a monopoly, that's it. You have no choice. Most monopolies in the market are fleeting. So people talked about IBM being this monopoly. Well, no longer. People talked about Microsoft being this monopoly. Well, who's concerned about them these days? Now it's more like Google. Is Google a monopoly? Well, maybe, but these are all fleeting examples. So I think the benefit of markets is you always have the ability to opt out of the system. So I would, I guess, say, in response to the question, my system that I'm advocating is allowing people to opt out rather than being coerced into any given relationship. Yeah?
So how would that work as far as national defense goes?
Okay, so one of the assumptions of government law enforcement is that we all have the same interest in this entire region of the world, and there would be free riding, and we would be taken over by the Canadians if we didn't have national defense. There's other economists who make the counter-argument in this volume that basically it's wrong to assume that everybody, all 300 million people in the United States need to have the exact same military. When the United States was first being formed and the Constitution was being debated, a lot of people said, no, we can't, and I forget the number of people at the time, but say around 2 million, it wasn't very high. They said, 2 million people? We can't have 2 million people under one political jurisdiction. That's crazy. There's too many people with too many different interests, and how can we assume that we're all going to have the same choices? And I will simply point out that in the world today, there's lots of countries that are quite small, and in many countries, they don't spend a lot on their national defense. And it's an open question, I guess, to what extent the military is protecting us. I would argue that much, if not all, of what the military is doing in the world today is making us less safe. So all their gallivanting around the world, getting people angry at Americans, I would argue is making us much less safe. Yeah?
How would you transition from what we have now to this?
Well, you could transition in any number of ways, but since I'm a very moderate type of guy, I'm going to propose the following moderate transition, and to say, if people love the state
they should be able to stay with it. And